Welcome back to the Avatar series right here at Comicstorian, your #1 stop for dramatic readings of your favorite comics. I'm your narrator Dan, and I'm here to bring you part 2 of the Avatar series, The Rift. Toph stands before her father, the rest of the group stunned. Bossman Lao? You told me you didn't have a family, Satoru says, coming up from behind his boss. In an instant, Lao's face hardens. That is correct. This girl is not my daughter, he says simply, turning away from Toph. Her friends try to defend her, while Satoru asks her the truth, but his uncle begins to yell at him, telling him to mind his own business since he's already caused enough trouble for the day. He yells for his son to get the Benders back inside, or they're all out of work, and Satoru runs off to do his uncle's bidding. Father, Toph says simply, her face following her father as he walks away. But Lao turns back. Guards, escort this confused young lady and her friends out of here, he tells the rough rhinos. The colonel walks over, asking Aang if he wants to do this the easy way or the hard way. But both Aang and Toph drop into combat stances. Avatar Aang, aren't we leaving? The man in charge said we have to go and not to come back, the air acolytes ask. Aang shakes his head. No! We're not leaving until I talk to someone about the refinery, he tells them. We're not leaving until I talk to my dad, Toph adds. I didn't realize that being an air acolyte meant I had to break so many rules, the air acolytes whisper. The colonel smiles, the rest of the rhinos at his back. Okay, the hard way it is, he says as fire appears in his hands. Aang nods, telling the others that they need to get the guards out of the building and away from the workers. That's a whole lot of big burly men. You guys sure you want to do this? Sokka asks, pulling out his boomerang. The colonel attacks, sending a blast of fire at them. Despite their early arguments, Toph and Aang quickly begin to work together. Toph creates a slide of earth beneath the rhinos' feet, and Aang sweeps them away with a blast of air. As the team begins spreading out for the fight, Aang turns back to his young air acolytes, telling them to get to safety. While he's distracted, one of the rhinos rushes him, taking a massive swing with his staff. But Aang easily avoids it, backflipping over the attack. I don't think we've met. Are you new to the rough rhinos? Aang politely asks as he continues to dodge attack after attack. The man grunts, telling Aang that he once was a guard for Ozai, but then you had to ruin everything, he shouts, slamming his staff down for another attack. But he brings it back encrusted with dirt. So what's your name? Aang asks, still being polite. Utor, the man grunts. Nice to meet you, Utor. A little advice? Find some other group to join. The rough rhinos are bad news, Aang tells him. One of the rhinos takes a swipe at Toph with his sickle. Hey, watch it with that thing, she shouts, stomping her foot and launching the man into the air. Aang launches himself over, catching the man before he can get hurt. You've got to be more careful, Toph, Aang tells his friend angrily. The soldier thanks him before he takes a swing at him with a knife. Oh, pipe down for a minute. I have to talk to my friend, Aang hisses, stomping his feet and letting the rhino sink into the earth. Aang walks over to Toph, explaining that they only do enough to stop those they fight, not try to hurt them. But Toph scoffs, reminding Aang that he just tried to cut her in half with one of his knife thingies. He would have just landed in some bush somewhere, she tells him. Aang tells her that while it was probably upsetting to see her father like that, they can still fight these guys with an inner calm. Ugh! Will you stop talking to me like that? I'm not one of your acolyte kids, all right? She snaps at him as she turns and launches herself away. I'll fight the way I want, she says. Meanwhile, Sokka leaps at the colonel, his club swinging hard. The metal slams into the colonel's chest and does nothing. Ha! Was that supposed to hurt? I've used chopsticks thicker than your arms, boy. You really think you can beat me? He laughs. Nope, Sokka yells, turning and running away. And the colonel stares in shock. Hey, come back here and fight, he yells. No thanks, Sokka shouts over his shoulder as he runs past Katara, who is holding off 2 of the rhinos herself. But Sokka grabs her by the arm, forcing her to run with him. I had those guys, she shouts at him. Will you please just follow me? I've got an idea. he tells her. The colonel pulls up next to his men, riding his rhino. Saddle up, boys. It's hunting season, he tells them. Sokka and Katara keep running, with the girl turning to her brother. Brilliant idea, Sokka. First we'll let them onto their Komodo rhinos, and then we'll let them chase us to a dead end, she snaps. But Sokka tells her to shut up and orders her to jump, and they leap out of the way, letting the Komodo rhino break through the gate. Sokka nods. Hey sis, what's that over there? He asks. A river, Katara smiles. Meanwhile, Yi Li and Xing Ying are backing away from another rough rhino when they hear Jingbo shout from behind them. Make way, Acolyte sisters, make way! He shouts, steering the forklift towards the large man. The rhino runs off, and Xing Ying tells Jingbo to stop. What were you planning to do? She asks. Smush him with the forklift, he tells her simply. And the two girls tell Jingbo that he can't do that as an heir acolyte. But I thought we were supposed to break the rules, the boy said, sadly. But suddenly a chain whip lashes out and wraps the girls up, and the rhino lifts Jingbo up, laughing at him. Let this be a lesson to you, kiddos. Never have a conversation when you're in the middle of a fight, he tells them. But suddenly, the chain whip begins to move, snaking out and wrapping around the rhino. What? Haven't you heard? I invented metal bending, Toph tells him simply. She yells at the girls, telling them that they should have just let Jingbo run over the rough rhino with a forklift. But they try to explain that they are following the air nomad teachings. Those precepts were created a long time ago when the world was completely different, by people who aren't around anymore. You guys have to stop worshiping the past and start worrying about the right now. Otherwise, you aren't going to have a right now to worry about, she shouts at them. Aang comes over, asking why the air acolytes didn't leave when he told them to. Xing Ying steps up, telling the Avatar that they came here to learn of the air nomad tradition, and they're not going to leave until they properly celebrate the Yang Chen festival. With these words, everyone apparently forgets about the fight that they are having, and Aang leads the air acolytes away, telling them that even though the meadow isn't here, they can make do. Toph, you're welcome to join us, he tells her, turning back to his friend. But she launches herself away, telling them that she'd rather do anything else. Inside, Satoru is trying to get his benders back on their schedule, pushing them extra hard since the other assembly line is down. Suddenly, the wall explodes inwards, revealing Toph standing there. Satoru and the other benders stop, staring at the young woman. I'm here to talk to my dad, she tells him. There's a pause. That way, he says, pointing her in the right direction. Aang leads the air acolytes through the refinery town, telling them that he used to always eat his meal with Monk Gyatso under a giant leafy tree. If I remember right, the tree was right about here, he finishes sadly, staring at the large stump that used to be the tree. Xing Ying tries to apologize to him, but Aang says it's okay. He looks up, seeing a restaurant nearby. Maybe we can celebrate in the same spot, even if the spot's now indoors. As Aang moves inside, Yi Li points out that the menu is a little strange. Cabbage soup? Cabbage noodles? Cabbage cookies? She reads. Yuck! Who would want to eat a cabbage cookie? Jingbo asks. Inside, the cabbage man is startled when Aang comes in. He turns around, seeing the young man, and is shocked. It's you! Bad things always happen to my cabbages when you're around, he yells, and Aang seems confused. Really? Are you sure you don't have me confused with someone else? He asks. Aang asks if they could eat a meal, and the man looks around. I suppose so, but you must keep all bad things far, far away from my cabbages, he tells them. Aang smiles, telling the man that he'll do his best, and then asks if they can eat their own food. But the man shakes his head, telling them that they'll have to order something. That's fair. Give us your house special, Aang tells him, and the man rushes back into the kitchen all excited. A plate of cabbage cookies coming right up, he yells. Quickly, Aang and the air acolytes work to set up the meal for the celebration. The cabbage man comes back, bringing them a plate of cookies. Not bad. Tastes kind of like a sugar cookie, but more cabbagey, Jingbo notes, taking a bite. Meanwhile, Toph has found her father's office. She opens the door, and her father sits at his desk, staring at her silently. Outside, Katara has frozen the other members of the Rough Rhinos. "So, you're Ye Lu, the Rough Rhino's explosive expert?" Sokka notes, standing in front of the man who is still holding a stick of dynamite, with the fuse lit. "Yes," Ye Lu says simply. "And you were planning on throwing this bomb at me and my sister?" "Yes." "But my sister froze you." "Yes." "And now you probably want me to get rid of the bomb before it blows half your arm." "Yes," Ye Lu says, more urgent as the fuse burns shorter and shorter. "Even though you were trying to kill us just 10 minutes ago?" Sokka asks. Ye Lu hesitates. "Yes?" "Fine," Sokka says, pulling the bomb out of Ye Lu's grasp. He tries to put it out with his fingers, but the fire burns him. He blows and he blows, becoming more frantic as the fuse burns shorter and shorter. Finally, he simply throws the bomb right as it's about to explode. The bomb explodes, taking a large chunk of the wall with it, and Sokka turns back to the frozen rhino. "I can't believe that's what you were trying to do to my head!" he shouts angrily. But Katara calls him over, pointing out that they found a secret passageway near the river. They begin to climb down, knowing that they need to check it out. Up on the hill, the colonel and his men are still frozen. "I can't feel my arms," the colonel shivers. "I told you to incorporate more armor into your uniform. I'm actually quite toasty," Ye Lu tells him. In the restaurant, Aang holds out his hands to the meal they are about to eat. "Today isn't going the way I imagined, but happy Yang Chen's festival anyway, Air Acolytes," he tells them, and he takes their hands, offering to say a prayer before they begin to eat. Everyone closes their eyes as Aang begins to speak. "We are grateful for this delicious food and the friends with whom we share it. We are grateful for happiness, compassion, and peace. We are grateful for our hope for the future," he says, the tattoos on his head glowing, "and our guidance from the past." Avatar Yang Chen finishes for Aang, sitting across from him in the spirit world. Aang is shocked that he can finally hear the past Avatar's words. She explains that the Avatars are linked like a chain. After he had severed the link with Avatar Roku, he injured his link to the avatars that preceded him. Aang is surprised, asking how they are able to connect now. "This meal that we share serves as a temporary conduit. Traditions like Yang Chen's festival can allow you to access the guidance of the past," she explains to him. In the physical world, the cabbage man is leaning over his counter. "What's happening?" he asks, fear in his voice. The acolytes explain that Aang is in the spirit world and seems to be talking to someone. "Something bad's about to happen to my cabbages, isn't it?" the man asks, cradling his vegetables. In Lao's office, the man pushes a picture of his family under some papers on his desk. He looks up at Toph, once again explaining that she is not his daughter. Let it go already. Nobody's here but you and me, and we both know you're lying," she tells him, walking across the room. Anger suddenly fills Lao's voice as he stands. "You presume to tell me what I know?" he snaps. He tells her that he spent countless hours of his life trying to raise a proper young woman, that he did everything he could to protect her from the outside world. Now clearly this rude, ungrateful thing in front of me is not my daughter, he snaps at her. "I know I've put you through a lot, but you've got no right to talk to me like that," she tells him. For a moment, it looks like Lao doubts himself, but the anger is quickly back. "Show me I'm mistaken, then. Greet me properly, as a child ought to greet a parent, in a manner befitting someone of our class," he tells her. Below ground, Katara and Sokka have discovered a vast underground mine beneath the refinery. Sokka motions Katara over, showing her a large smokestack that is causing the pollution in the water. More rough rhinos come up behind them, ordering the kids that they need to leave. Sokka turns, pulling out his club. "I've got them," he tells his sister, and Sokka dodges an attack, swinging his club like a sword and smacking the rhino in the chest. He dodges as the other launches a volley of arrows, and they stick into a support beam, splitting it and causing the whole chamber to rumble. Katara yells for her brother to stop, that this whole chamber is the source of the earthquakes and could come down at any moment. "You've got to stop fighting! You're making things worse!" Katara yells. Sokka rushes past her, dodging more arrows. "Tell it to that guy!" he shouts. She bends some water, freezing the rhino's bow arm. "It isn't safe down here. We've got to get the workers out," Katara tells her brother once he has joined her again. Sokka nods, getting up onto one of the mine carts. "Attention everybody! This mine could collapse at any moment! We need to get everyone out of here in an orderly fashion," he yells. But none of the workers move. They glance up at the young teen, but almost immediately go back to their work. Sokka keeps talking, but finally, someone steps out of the crowd. "We aren't all as lucky as you and your sister, Sokka," Nutha says, stepping forward with her sister close by. Sokka smiles as he recognizes his sister's old friends, but Nutha keeps talking. "Not everybody gets to buddy up with the Avatar and leave home. I'm sure you're not aware, since you haven't been back. The Southern Water Tribe hasn't been doing that well since the war ended. We're lucky to have found work here," Nutha says, angry at Katara. "This job is all we have, Katara. Without it, we don't eat. So unless the boss man orders us to leave, we have to stay," Niuk tells her friend. Sokka pauses for a minute before running off, yelling to Katara that he is going to find the boss man. Back in the spirit world, Aang continues his conversation with Avatar Yang Chen. He explains to her that he had to cut his tie with Roku because the Avatar wanted him to do something that he couldn't. The world is so different now from when he was alive. His advice didn't fit anymore, he tells her. Yang Chen nods, agreeing that Roku wanted Aang to hold too tightly to the past. "You know, maybe Toph had a point," Aang says, hanging his head. Yang Chen explains that Aang's past lives aren't meant to bind him, only to guide him in his life. If you separate yourself from those who came before, you will inevitably make the same mistakes, she tells him. She looks at Aang, telling him that she has made mistakes herself, mistakes that he must not repeat. And with these words, she begins a story. Many centuries ago, lightning crashed in the sky above as a rainstorm beat down on a great city that once sat in the same spot as the refinery. The king had sent for Yang Chen's help, and the young Avatar was eager to make a difference in the world, despite what her teacher wished. She arrived at the palace, where the king explained that their fortune tellers predicted that a great tragedy would befall the city that very night. "What are they talking about, Your Majesty?" Yang Chen asked after hearing the three old crones' predictions. "I'm not sure," he tells her. So Yang Chen went back out into the storm, sitting on a cliff just outside the city, the rain lashing down on her as she meditated. It was just past midnight when a great spirit emerged from the depths of the ocean. "Don't worry, nothing I can't handle," she told her master. But she was lying. She could feel the grief, and it overwhelmed her. Tears sprang into her eyes, quickly washed away by the rain. She confronted him, riding up on an air scooter. She asked the Great Spirit what his grievances were, but the spirit didn't speak to her, lashing out instead. She fell to the ground, Master Boma coming over to help her. As they looked on, the spirit began to attack the city. "Master Boma, what do I do?" she asked. "I'll evacuate the city as quickly as I can. You pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you go get him," Boma tells her. In Lao's office, Toph continues to stand in front of her father. She doesn't know how he can be so blind, that his daughter was never the perfect, polite girl that they wanted, that it was always an act to get them to leave her alone. That girl never existed. Your real daughter might not be prim and proper, but she's become the greatest earthbender of all time. She trained the Avatar. She helped end the 100-year war. And now she is standing in front of you. Don't you have anything to say about that?" she says to him. But Lao simply turns away, not saying a word. And as Toph turns to go, she wipes the mist from her eyes. "Coming back to talk to you was a mistake. Don't worry, I won't bother you ever again," she tells him. But she stops as the door slams open, revealing Sokka. He stomps forward, demanding that Lao orders the workers to leave the mine. "It's too dangerous." I assure you, our crystal mine is completely safe. We inspect it daily, Lao tells him angrily. Not the crystal mine, the iron mine beneath the town, Sokka explains. The Lao doesn't believe him, telling him that they don't have an iron mine, just the crystal mine. Follow me, Sokka tells him, leading them out of the room. Back with Aang and Yang Chen. Yang Chen continues her story. Master Boma had evacuated the city while she fought against the Great Spirit. They fought through the night, with the city destroyed as neither could gain the upper hand against each other. It was finally as the dawn broke over the horizon that Yang Chen finally demanded that the spirit tell her what he wanted. He rose up, his earthen armor falling away as he touched Yang Chen on the forehead.
I am called General Old Iron, he tells her.
He explains that long ago, when the spirits wandered the earth, he lived in this land with his friend, Lady Tainei. She was the most beautiful spirit and filled the world around her with beauty. Old Iron served as her protector. When the humans arrived, Old Iron tried to stomp them out, but Lady Tainei took pity on them and loved them, and so Old Iron left. Over time, the tribe of humans grew into a great city. Old Iron then explains that a few nights ago, he felt the death of his friend, and that he knows that it was the humans who killed her. That her death shows what the world will become because of the humans. Yang Chen returned to the king, telling him what Old Iron said. It is true. I caused her death. The fault was mine alone, the king says. He steps forward, begging the spirit that he not punish the city for the king's actions. In the present, Lao is shocked to find the iron mine beneath the town. He explains that it shouldn't exist, that he and Loban decided the area was too dangerous to put a mine in.
I made no such agreement, Lao. Because of your cowardice, I had to pursue this particular opportunity in secret on my own, Loban says, entering the mine. He explains that this mine is the richest deposit of iron in the area, and Lao just wanted to leave it? Listen, you dunderhead, you need to stop thinking about money and start thinking about people's lives, Toph snaps at the man. Satoru steps forward, explaining to Toph that she is wrong about his uncle, that he would never endanger people, but she shakes her head. You gotta trust me on this one, Satoru. I can feel the earth and ore shifting all around us, she tells him. Lao nods his head, ordering the miners to leave immediately. But Loban shakes his head, telling the workers that if they value their jobs, they will get back to work. Sokka turns, finding the two rhinos have returned. One stabs out with his spear, but Sokka dodges. The weapon lodges into another of the support beams, destroying it. And the whole chamber begins to shake around them. In the spirit world, Yang Chen looks at Aang, explaining that she was very young when she found Old Iron. The Avatar could still be elusive, but when I saw General Old Iron attacking the people, the Avatar state welled up within me, she says. Old Iron tries to lash out, but Yang Chen blocks him with a tower of earth. She floats into the air, wind swirling all around her. They continue to fight, with Yang Chen easily turning aside the Great Spirit's attacks. Remember, General Old Iron, I am the Avatar. I stand on the border of the spirit and human worlds. To ensure that border never shifts into a rift, peace is possible. Balance is possible. Lay down your armor and listen to me, she tells the Great Spirit. The earth crumbles from the Great Spirit, and the two finally talk. They come to an agreement that as long as it was honored, General Old Iron would never again attack the people. And so I established a ritual among my people, she tells Aang. A realization dawns on Aang as he figures out what the Yang Chen's festival is supposed to celebrate. As Yang Chen is about to explain the agreement between her and General Old Iron, everything begins to shake all around them. Aang comes out of the spirit world to find the restaurant shaking around them. Another earthquake! He shouts as the air acolytes look around in fear. No, no, no! The cabbage man yells as his cabbages are spilling onto the ground. As the shaking stops, Aang orders the acolytes to their feet, telling them that the people will need their help in the village. They run through the town, finding the others coming out of the mines, and Aang tells the acolytes to help the wounded. "Sokka, my sisters are still down there," Niuk tells Sokka. He nods, telling her that so is Katara, and he'll figure something out while the air acolytes take care of her broken arm. Aang is confused, but Sokka quickly explains everything they discovered about the mine, telling him that it's directly beneath them. Aang uses his bending to start digging down towards the mine, but he suddenly hears a voice. "Aang, stop!" Katara yells from beneath them. "We're all alive down here thanks to Toph!" Aang nods, telling her to get everyone clear so that he can bend a tunnel to save them. But Katara tells him not to, that if he bends the wrong way, the whole mine could collapse. "There isn't just earth between you and me. This place is full of iron ore. Right now, Toph's metal bending is all that's keeping us from being crushed," she shouts. The group huddles together as Toph strains to keep them safe, sweat beginning to drip from her face with the exertion. And that is the conclusion to part 2 of The Rift. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell button for some notifications when our videos go live. If you want to find more of me, you can find me on Twitch at Cyloo91, that's CYLOO91. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time for The Rift Part 3.